This is a short film introducing you to some of the music organizations available in Sweden. These organizations all work to support musicians and the music business in many different ways. It is not aiming to be fully covering the Swedish music life, but it's an attempt to give you a bit of an overview, and I hope you find it helpful. The first organization I would like to introduce to you is MAIS, Musikarrangörer i Samverkan in Swedish. There are two main reasons why I would like to give you information about MAIS. And the first one is that MAIS is a members association, a cooperation network. So MAIS consists of a lot of members association, around 1,500 concert organizers or associations around Sweden. They are gathered within these national associations that I have listed here. So the first one being Kammarmusikförbundet, the National Chamber Music Organization. They have around 100 organizers connected to them, spread around Sweden. And this is, of course, a very good network for you to know about when you want to get your chamber music concerts out there to Swedish audiences. Kontaktnätet, that's a youth network of youth organizers, and they work in the whole art field, in also different genres of art. RANK is an organization working with contemporary music, and they host festivals and concert organizers of contemporary music. Sveriges Orkesterförbund, they work obviously with orchestras. They gather around 300 orchestras in Sweden, and they have an aim to support orchestra issues in Sweden. Sweden Festivals consists of festival organizers within all art forms in Sweden, and it's also Sweden Festivals is the Swedish representative in the European Festivals organization. So this might also be good for you to know. These are the ones that are maybe a little more connected to or have classical music within them. As you can see, there are some more here that are also good contacts, depending on what your aim is with your music life. But that's different organizations within folk music and folk dance, as well as jazz and pop music. And altogether, they have around 1,500 organizers within this network. So if you click onto the website of MAIS, you can also find links to all these national organizations. So what does MAIS do? Well, as I said, this is a network of members, and the aim is, of course, to support music organizers around Sweden. So they work to improve the conditions for Sweden's music organizers, and they work with different organizers' development projects. They also work in dialogue with government agencies and other authorities to improve the circumstances for Swedish music organizers. The second reason I would like to introduce this to you is that they have a really, really good organizer's guide on their website. This is very easy, accessible. It's a lot of good tips and recommendations on how to organize concerts and to build projects. It's about what you do before your project and concert, what you do during, what you do after. It's about financial issues. It's tips and tricks on all sorts of issues. So I really recommend you to check in on mais.se and check this out. It's in Swedish only, as far as I can see, but there is always Google Translate. Moving on to the organization Export Music Sweden. Export Music Sweden is an organization that is aiming to strengthen Swedish music as a brand abroad. of course, working with obviously export of music. And they do a lot of different things also. I have listed them here. They support Swedish music export of all genres and also represents and exposure Swedish music at music fairs and festivals around the world. They organize seminars on music export for the Swedish music industry, the Musiklivet. They communicate news and knowledge about music export to the Swedish music business. And they also inform Swedish music life about the governmental funding and support that is available in Sweden and for international projects. And they also give some personal advice and can also help you get in touch with partners in this field. I will just also mention briefly the funding bodies, the bigger ones in Sweden. We have already gone through this in an earlier presentation, but as you know, there are some governmental organizations or funding bodies that are the bigger ones. They are Statens musikverk, Kulturrådet, and Konstnärsnämnden with Kulturbryggan. There is, of course, funding bodies within the regions and also within the different communities around Sweden. There are Nordic, European, and international funds, including the bilateral ones. Nordic, mostly connected to the Nordic politics associations, Nordiska rådet, Nordiska ministerrådet, and the European connected to the European Union. But there are also others. And there is, of course, specific funds and foundations and scholarships that you can apply for as a musician. The unions for musicians are, of course, very important. These are the two most common ones, I would say, if you're a musician in the classical field. It's SYMF and Musikerförbundet, and they help out with legal issues, mainly related to employment and salaries, etc. Here are some organizations working with copyright and consultation around copyright issues in Sweden. STIM is the main one if you're a composer and you want to protect and copyright your music. Also, if you are organizing a concert playing someone else's music that is covered by copyright, you should get in touch with STIM to pay a little fee for that performance. Sami work mainly with royalties, so if you, for instance, have performed in a recording that is later on played officially, then you get some royalty, a small amount of money for that. And that's what Sami works mainly with. There is another copyright organization called SKAP. They also work with different copyrights and legal rights issues for musicians and music creators. They have scholarships and residencies. And there is also an organization called IFPI, and they work also with copyright, but mainly with recorded music and deals with radio stations, etc. And finally, some other different organizations that are supporting musicians in Sweden and that it might be good for you to know about. Musikcentrum is an association for performing artists. They have 3 different departments in east, west and south of Sweden, and they all come together in a national organization. So Musikcentrum is an artist agency, and they work also with coaching or organizing seminars, workshops, and are also involved in music politics in Sweden, representing musicians. If you are a freelance musician, you can be employed by Musikalliansen. This basically means that you have a monthly salary at the level just above, a little bit above the unemployment salary, And that is when you do not have a job. When you get a gig, when you have a paid gig, the salary from Musikalliansen will reduce. So this is a good opportunity for you to be hired and have a steady income over the year. And you have to apply in competition to be part of Musikalliansen. There are also different cultural incubators. I have mentioned two here, Klump at Subtopia in south of Stockholm and Transit. So a cultural incubator, they can support you with a workspace, an office, or a place to rehearse. They also offer seminars and different kinds of educations. It's a really, really good place to meet other cultural workers, to exchange knowledge and get new ideas, and to find maybe project partners for your upcoming projects. There are also organizations working directly with entrepreneurship for artists and for musicians. I have mentioned two here. The first one is Arteprenör, which is a Swedish one. They support and educate Swedish artists in entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship related issues. They have a really good website if you want to check it out. And there is also an international example here of a similar organization. This one is called International Network of Contemporary Performing Arts. It's a network of more than 450 performing arts organizations and individual members, and they do similar job but on an international level, education, seminars, interesting projects around entrepreneurship issues in the arts. So this little film I hope was useful for you, and don't hesitate to check in all these websites of these different organizations. They all have really, really good information, and you can also through their websites find even more interesting supporting organizations and supporting bodies in cultural world. So good luck.